Tonight on Unsolved Mysteries.
A Florida woman meets a man of her dreams. Soon they chart a life together, sailing around the world. But suddenly she vanishes. Could her boyfriend have had anything to do with her disappearance? A decaying marriage, a shocking case of arson. A wife is dead and her husband is on the run. A California teenager's vacation to Carson City, Nevada sparks a seemingly innocent summer romance. Does that relationship lead to her unexplained death just days later? What happened to Natasha? A young woman working 2 jobs struggles to support her daughter. Then when she ends a relationship with a possessive man, she ends up dead. Now police need your help to find her alleged killer, Michael Alfonso. Join me. Perhaps you hold the key. Perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery. In April 1998, 51-year-old Colleen Wood moved from Dayton, Ohio to Boca Raton, Florida. Living in the Sunshine State was a culmination of a lifelong dream. The charming former high school homecoming queen went to work at Lighthouse Point Marina as office manager.
That shouldn't be a problem. Pretty tempting.
Then in December 2000, following a whirlwind romance with a former professional race driver and Wall Street wizard named John Paul, Colleen suddenly vanished without a trace. To those who know her, it is unimaginable that she would not call or write. In the months following Colleen Wood's disappearance, the mystery only deepened, and police are baffled. There is no body, no suicide note, and no evidence of foul play. In fact, legally, there is no crime and no suspect. While Colleen is listed as a missing person by Fort Lauderdale police, her family and friends fear the worst. Detectives would like to talk to one person who might be able to shed some light on Colleen's fate, John Paul. But months after Colleen was last seen, he too mysteriously disappeared.
Well, here she is, my island girl.
Sometime in early 2000, Colleen Wood, a divorced mother of 2 grown kids, decided to give Cupid another chance.
Wow. When you said you had a sailboat, I never imagined she'd be this big.
Yeah, she's big enough to sail the Atlantic and the Pacific.
My mother met John Paul through a personal ad looking for a sailing companion. And she was impressed with his credentials. He said he was he had an MBA from Harvard. And in the racing circle, he was fairly famous.
Like to see the cabin?
Sure.
And he was also reputed to be wealthy due to his success in the ownership of a mutual fund company.
Within a few months of their first date, Colleen and John had become inseparable. One evening, following an intimate dinner, Colleen shared some of her hopes and dreams.
Here's to dreams.
Here's to our dreams.
What is it that you'd like to do that you've never done before?
Well, I've always thought it'd be pretty fun to sail around the world.
Well, why don't we do that?
Colleen was surprised and thrilled when John suggested they make the voyage together aboard his 55-foot schooner Island Girl. It was a wild adventure torn from the pages of a steamy romance novel. Within a few weeks, Colleen had sold her condominium and entrusted John with investing the net proceeds, $43,000. A short time later, she moved in with him aboard Island Girl, then quit her job.
Yeah, would you get some teak oil?
Sure.
Thanks.
I was very, very shocked when Colleen told me that she was leaving. I personally was very concerned about her selling all of her assets to take this trip.
Colleen, are you sure about this? I mean, selling your car and your condo and everything? Seems a little risky putting all your eggs in one basket.
I know, but you know what? This is something I've always wanted to do. Let's face it, I'm not getting any younger. Might be the only chance I have.
You gonna take a break?
Yeah, in a minute. I gotta call Mike before I forget about it.
On December 3rd, 2000, Colleen placed a call to her son in Ohio.
Hello? Hey, Mike, it's Mom.
She told him Island Girl was setting sail in a few weeks and she would be in touch soon.
I keep hoping if I ignore them.
According to Maureen, Canada, she spoke to Colleen about 10 days later, on December 13th or 14th, to invite her to the office Christmas party.
I called her cell phone number, and she happened to be in Key West at a bar with John Paul. She sounded fine. She sounded like she was having a good time.
Great, so you can make the party. I wouldn't miss it for the world. All right, I'll see you Tuesday. Bye.
Tuesday, the party came and went, and she didn't show up. But I just assumed that something happened where there was possibly rough seas and they couldn't make it back on the boat.
She didn't call us for Christmas Eve, and after New Year, everyone was really worried. Friends and family were asking, haven't you heard? Because we know she would have called. I tried to call her on her cell phone, and the account had been closed.
Michael immediately contacted the police in Florida, but there was no evidence of any crime. Days turned to weeks, then months. Still, there was no sign of Colleen Wood.
We spent the best part of January and February calling back and forth with the Coast Guard and the FCC, just trying to, in some way, identify and locate this boat.
Back in Ohio, Colleen's son searched the internet in hopes of finding an address or phone number for John Paul. What he discovered gave him grave concerns.
I ran across an article that said that he had served time in prison, that he went to a federal penitentiary for approximately 15 years, serving time for an attempted murder. I'm still thinking they're on a boat, but I'm thinking she's on a boat with a killer, or a possible killer.
It turned out Colleen's boyfriend was a mastermind behind a drug smuggling ring in the early 80s and tried to kill his partner in crime for allegedly ratting him out. John Paul was paroled in 1999 and met Colleen less than a year later. His plan to sail around the world was in direct violation of his parole. Family and friends were certain Colleen knew nothing about John Paul's past. However, his prison record wasn't the only thing that had some people troubled. John would later give 3 different accounts of his relationship with Colleen, which he says ended on the rocks.
What kind of commitment you have made, huh?
John allegedly told version 1 to his daughter. According to Michael, she said Colleen had become irate over an incident involving one of her father's old girlfriends and ended the relationship.
I've had it, John. I have had it.
When I heard that she had broken up in December, I was panicked, completely panicked.
Michael pleaded with John Paul's daughter to have her father call him. 3 days later, he did, and a second version of the story emerged.
He told me that they had an argument. He said he didn't remember what it was about. But after the argument, she left the boat. And then she came back with her football player boyfriend. She gathered all of her belongings, and she left the boat. And he hasn't seen her since. I filed a missing persons report immediately with the Fort Lauderdale Police Department.
In April 2001, some 4 months after Colleen was last heard from, Detectives Mark Shotwell and Al Stone were assigned to the case. Their investigation quickly led to some suspicious activity on Colleen's credit cards.
In a 2-month period between mid-December to mid-February, in excess of 80 transactions, cash advancements, totaling over $40,000 had occurred on Colleen Wood's cards. We were able to come up with good, solid physical evidence that not only did Colleen Wood not make any of the transactions, they were not made with her consent.
If Colleen wasn't withdrawing cash from the ATMs, then who was? The police are still investigating and would only say it was a woman, perhaps more than one. Also raising suspicion were 2 ads that appeared in a local newspaper.
Both of these ads were placed in the name of Colleen Wood using her credit cards. Both of the ads were ordered by a male. The first ad that ran in early December was in the help wanted section looking for a first mate on the boat. The second ad that ran mid-December was in the romance male seeking female section.
Had the ads been placed by John Paul? Detectives weren't sure. They did know the second ad began running on December 16, 2000, about the same time Maureen Canada had spoken to Colleen by phone. According to Maureen, Colleen told her then that she was partying with John in Key West, and everything was fine. Detectives Shotwell and Stone are anxious to hear about the events of December 2000 from John Paul himself. They finally tracked him down in May 2001. It was then, according to detectives, that John offered his third version of the breakup with Colleen.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you a few questions about Colleen Wood.
Sure, how can I help you?
Have you heard from her lately?
Oh, well, no, I can't help you there. I haven't seen...
John Paul said that in mid-December, he and Colleen had a large fight over money, that Colleen Wood owed him money and had made no effort to repay it.
Then she left.
But the alleged inconsistent stories weren't all that detectives claimed had them troubled.
Get her stuff.
My partner and I both noticed that he was becoming increasingly more nervous. I found it unusual that he seemed to have so little concern over a woman that he lived with, that he loved.
I haven't seen her since, you know.
Just a very unusual interview, very little compassion shown on his part.
Or if you can think of anything else that may help us out, we'd appreciate it if you'd give us a call.
Of course.
Despite the allegations of suspicious behavior and the inconsistent stories regarding John and his breakup with Colleen, there is no solid evidence to indicate he had anything to do with her disappearance. In fact, John Paul may have no knowledge whatsoever about the mystery surrounding Colleen Wood. He has not been named a suspect in the case.
We have no body, no physical evidence to show us what happened to Colleen, but I can tell you it's not good. I don't believe Colleen Wood is with us anymore.
I know she's gone. It's scary to know that something like this can happen to someone who's so close to you. You think it happens to everybody else, but you know what? I'm everybody else.
We need to find out what happened. We need to know if indeed he's responsible for the death of my mother. I really want to see justice served.
John Paul has apparently left town, violating the terms of his parole. Detectives would like to find him, to question him again about the disappearance of Colleen Wood.
Do your thing. Go do it.
According to her family, Jean Weaver's troubled marriage is nearing its end.
That's what I'm saying. Let's be done with this joke of a relationship that we're saying is a marriage, that we're saying is a family.
They say that after 17 years together, she tells her husband Gordon she is seeking a divorce.
This is done, Gordon. This is done.
Jean's family says they are concerned. They claim they have always considered Gordon strange, a reclusive loner who never attended any family functions. They are uncertain how he will react.
I'm gonna try her again.
2 days after Jean's decision, her sister Kathy becomes worried. Jean, almost compulsively punctual, is 45 minutes late for a family gathering. Kathy and her husband Tom are driving to her home to discover why.
We get to the house, and I'm panicking by then. I heard this beeping noise. I didn't know what it was. I was thinking, I don't understand this. And then it hit me. That was the fire alarm. It was smoke obscuring the windows, and I screamed at Tom.
Tom, the house is full of smoke! Dial 911! Jean! Jean! Jean!
As firefighters race to the scene, Kathy and Tom try to determine if Jean is in the house.
Jean!
But the thick smoke is too stifling to penetrate. 3 minutes later, the firefighters arrive. In the basement, they discover that the fire's intensity has caused water pipes to burst. They also discover Jean Weaver. A valiant effort is made to save her life.
And then the police chief comes over and said, she's gone. And I just ran and I ran and I screamed and I screamed. I just can't begin to say how special Jean was.
Investigators in White Bear Lake, Minnesota determined that the fire causing the death of Jean Weaver was deliberately set. Burn patterns were consistent with a case of arson. An autopsy revealed that Jean had sustained a head injury but died from smoke inhalation. The police believed Jean had been murdered. They and Jean's family turned a suspicious eye on her husband, Gordon Weaver. Gordon Weaver had every advantage in life, yet seemed destined to struggle. He was a son of wealthy parents, but was plagued by financial problems. He had a high IQ, but experienced deep bouts of depression. As a golf and tennis club he owned was failing, he witnessed Jean build a successful career in the human resources industry. Her family wondered if his disintegrating relationship with Jean had led him to a desperate act.
We wanted so much to find out that it was just a horrible accident, that he had nothing to do with it. But the more time passed, I started to think that Cordy had actually killed Jean. It was unbelievable, but I believed it.
Jean's family claims that almost from the beginning, her marriage to Gordon was troubled. They say the joy Jean rarely experienced as a wife, she found as a mother. As the years passed, her love for her son grew, but her devotion to Gordon withered.
Yeah, Gordon, could you just look at me while we talk about this?
What Jean would say about Gordy is that he would withdraw into himself. For many years, I just felt sorry for him because he seemed unhappy and just couldn't have a normal relationship with Jean. And she wasn't happy at all, but she thought it was the best for their son to remain together as a family.
A family crisis forced Jean to reevaluate her marriage. Her third sister, Patty, was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer.
Patty died, and that is what precipitated Jean into thinking life is too short to stay married.
I'm asking Gordon for a divorce.
According to Jean's sisters, Gordon reacted to her divorce plans by asking her an ominous question.
He said, "Have you told anyone this?" And Jeannie goes, "No."
Well, we laughed because we said, as if you wouldn't tell your sisters that you were going to get a divorce. And now I think, why didn't that hit me? Why didn't I say, Jean, make sure you tell him that everyone knows you're going to get a divorce? But I can't explain why that didn't occur to me.
Just 3 days after Jean's alleged conversation with her sisters, she was found dead. That morning, her son was at a soccer game, and Gordon said he divided his time working at his office and running errands. Gordon returned home immediately after police contacted him by phone.
We were not able to give him a whole lot of information at that time, and he was asked to voluntarily come up to the police department to speak to one of our investigators, which was myself.
Was my wife in the house? Is she all right?
Mr. Weaver, I'm afraid I have some bad news.
Was she hurt?
I'm afraid your wife passed away. I'm sorry.
Some of his mannerisms or behavior was not what one would expect, having come home and finding his house, surrounded by evidence tape, and then being told that his wife was, killed in the fire. And we began to suspect that he was possibly involved in the death of Jean Weaver.
Detective Braun secured Gordon's permission to have forensics experts examine the clothes he was wearing that day. On them, they found traces of 2 flammable liquids that they also found on Jean's body. Investigators also learned that Jean's life insurance policies totaling more than $350,000 were due to lapse just 2 days after she was killed. The sole beneficiary was Gordon. Jean's sister, Kathy Reisgard, believes she knows what happened.
I believe Gordon went to confront Jean, and I believe he pushed her or shoved her.
Ouch!
She had a wound to the head, and he panicked. And he set my sister on fire. My sister was alive when he set her on fire.
Because of the fire, some water pipes burst in the basement. The water pipes appeared to contain the fire to the laundry room area and also help preserve her body to the point that the medical examiner could do a complete autopsy and locate the head injury and some other physical evidence.
12 days after Jean's death, Gordon Weaver was arrested for her murder. He was soon released on bail. The FBI says a $300,000 cash bond was provided by his parents. 4 months later, while awaiting his indictment hearing, he borrowed his parents' car. They said he was going to Chicago for a vacation alone. Two days later, the car was found abandoned in Summit, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. Bloodstains found inside appear to indicate that Gordon Weaver had been the victim of a violent carjacking. Forensics experts determined the blood was human, but were unable to determine if it was Gordon's.
The timing of things is just all too coincidental for him to disappear or be carjacked. It's a week before that he is going to be indicted by a Ramsey County grand jury for first-degree murder. It doesn't make any kind of sense at all.
Did Gordon stage his disappearance, or did he indeed meet with foul play, as his parents say they firmly believe? 2 days after his car was found, an unexpected phone call apparently solved the mystery.
Hello, golf and tennis.
It was received by a business associate of Gordon's.
This individual identified the person as Gordon Weaver. Gordon Weaver asked if they found his car. This co-worker spoke with him for just a very brief time, and then Gordon Weaver hung up. We do not believe in any way, shape, or form that Gordon Weaver is dead. His family has indicated that that is what they believe, but the phone call makes it all crystal clear that Gordon Weaver did not die in that vehicle on that night. Gordon Weaver is still on the run.
Why should he be off somewhere? And Jean, the most beautiful person that you could imagine, is gone forever. If I knew then what I knew now, I would never have left Jean alone for a second.
A summer afternoon in Carson City, Nevada. Sandra Jennings receives an urgent call from her brother, Clarence.
Oh, hi, Clarence.
He's trying to locate his 16-year-old daughter, Natasha, who's visiting them from California.
Natasha?
I had called home. My sister answered the phone. I asked her if Tosh was home. She set the phone down. She peeked out the back door. Didn't see her, so she went upstairs.
Oh, my God! Natasha!
That's when I heard her scream.
Clarence, I found Natasha. She's on the floor. She's not breathing.
I told her, well, hang up right now, call 911. I'm on my way.
I'll call.
Tragically, Natasha Jennings was already dead when the paramedics arrived. Ultimately, 3 theories on the cause of her death would emerge, involving accusations of drug abuse, sexual assault, and murder. Along the way, the reputations of Natasha and her family will be subjected to salacious rumor and innuendo. And to this day, how Natasha Jennings died remains a mystery. Natasha Jennings lived with her mother in Southern California. When she was very young, her parents divorced, a situation that affected Natasha deeply. In fact, Natasha had hoped her visit to Carson City would spark a stronger relationship with her father.
I told her no at first. I said, no, you're not going. But then I didn't want to put her in the middle of our disagreements. What I feel towards her father is my own business, and doesn't involve her. That is her father.
Among her circle of friends, Natasha was a sensitive one.
As soon as she met someone, they were her friend. She always had something good to say. She was outgoing, the most caring person I've ever met. She just kept everyone that she knew close to her heart.
Sadly, Ingrid Kotar would now only have those cherished memories of her best friend to hold on to. Natasha's last day began uneventfully. She had lunch with her aunt at 1. Later that afternoon, Clarence Jennings placed several calls to his daughter. He had become increasingly worried when he was unable to reach her. When police arrived at the scene, they found Natasha as her aunt had found her, slumped across the bedroom floor. Her hair was damp as if she had just bathed. An electric fan inexplicably lay on top of her.
Anytime you have a young individual that's deceased for no specific apparent cause or reason, it's suspicious, it's treated as a homicide, until such time as we can shift gears and say that it's something else.
Although there were no outward signs of trauma to Natasha's body, investigators quickly developed their first theory. Attention was directed at a young Carson City man Natasha had become close to, whom we will call Chris. Allegations had already been raised that Chris had sexually assaulted her just days before. The investigation revealed that Natasha and Chris had joined a group of friends at an impromptu party. The get-together dragged late into the night.
Good night.
Those who had been drinking were invited to wait until morning to drive home. No one saw what Natasha and Chris did the rest of the night.
Morning.
Good morning. Take care. Okay.
According to Ingrid Kotar, her friend in California, a confused and traumatized Natasha called the following morning to tell her something had happened after the party.
Tosh, what's up?
Natasha told me she had blacked out. She was drinking and she had blacked out, and that Chris had raped her.
Do you know where Natasha lives?
I don't remember.
Chris was interrogated. However, detectives concluded that whatever may have happened between him and Natasha, his actions had not been criminal.
The autopsy report was conclusive that she was not sexually assaulted.
As soon as Natasha's mother learned of her death, she rushed to Carson City.
And I spoke with everybody that she was around. I went to places that she had been. I handed out flyers, thousands upon thousands upon thousands.
Tammy Stelton's efforts brought a new and unexpected theory to light.
I was at the shopping center passing out flyers when a woman approached me.
What is it?
And she was very scared.
Please help me. Anything that you know.
She was very skittish and watching over her shoulder, and she says, I know what happened to your daughter. She wrote her telephone number down, and she goes, here, she goes, call me.
The woman claimed that Natasha's father, Clarence, was a drug informant for local law enforcement authorities. She said drug dealers had found out and killed Natasha in retaliation.
My ex-wife had asked me, is there any possibility that they might have had something to do with it in retaliation for my being an informant for the police department? And my jaw dropped. I've never been an informant for the police department.
Led by Natasha's mother, a group of relatives confronted one of the Carson City detectives assigned to Natasha's case.
And we asked him if he was aware that Clarence was, or Natasha's father was an informant, and he didn't deny it at all. He said yes, he was aware of it.
I can say based upon our records and the records of the Nevada Division of Investigations, which would be more typified as state narcotics, Clarence Jennings was not, nor was he ever a documented informant for either agency.
How long have you known Natasha Jennings?
But soon yet another theory, the third, would redirect the course of the investigation. Authorities still believed a drug connection could have played a vital role in Natasha's death, but with a stunning new twist.
Did you ever see Natasha use any kind of drugs?
No, Tosh would never use drugs.
Investigators were now speculating that Natasha had brought about her own death by overdosing on drugs. They focused on two pieces of evidence. A scrap of plastic recovered on a landing outside Natasha's bedroom contained traces of methamphetamine, commonly known as speed, and cocaine. And an examination of Natasha's body had revealed a minute amount of the drugs in her nostrils.
The cocaine and methamphetamine can lead to increased body temperature, hyperthermia. I think she probably took a bath to cool down, and she was then in the process of drying her hair when she collapsed, most likely a spasm.
They said she was on a 5-day drug and drink and sex party. And I was like, no, I know my daughter. She wouldn't have used.
The official investigation report states that the medical examiner found no drug residue in Natasha's system during autopsy.
If you snort cocaine on Monday and you're deceased on Friday, and we do a toxicology, we may find remnants of the drug, perhaps in your nose or maybe in an injection point or something like that. But the actual toxicology of your blood and urine and whatnot may produce a zero amount.
Today, the investigation has hit a dead end. For Tammy Stelton, all the theories and endless speculation have only produced frustration and more questions.
All I wanted was answers. For somebody to talk to me and explain to me what's been going on with her. But nobody will. Nobody has.
The unfortunate part is, I don't have an answer for the mother. This girl was 16 years old. She had her entire life ahead of her, and we don't have any answers. We don't have the bottom line.
I didn't want her to go. And I was kind of mad at myself because I had felt it and didn't take heed to those emotions. I had actually sent her a note telling her that I wanted her to come home. She didn't make it back.
Officially, the investigation into the 1997 death of Natasha Jennings is still open. At a motel room in Elgin, Illinois, Michael Alfonso has reached a breaking point. Desperately willing to go to any lengths to save a relationship. His girlfriend, single mother Josefina Gonzalez, has agreed to meet with him to listen to his final plea. But Michael refuses to accept her decision.
No!
After Alfonso stabs her, he tries to escape with Josefina's 2-year-old child. Although severely wounded, Josefina fights back. She saves her son by plunging Michael Alfonso's own knife into his back. He drops the child and, bleeding, flees into the night. Josefina Gonzalez and her son recovered from the 1994 attack. Michael Alfonso was arrested when he sought treatment for his wounds. Alfonso would be convicted of aggravated battery and serve 4 years in prison. Tragically, Josefina Gonzalez would not be the last of Alfonso's relationships to allegedly end in violence. In June 2001, Gena Velasquez, separated from her husband, was working 2 jobs to support her young daughter. Unfortunately for Gena, Michael Alfonso also worked at one of those companies, and he had Gena in his sights.
You scared me.
I snuck away before anybody saw me.
Oh.
I've got like 5 minutes now. I came in here just to ask you out to dinner.
Tonight?
Yeah, tonight.
Okay,
yeah.
well, I get off around 8, so if you want to come back around 8.
Gena's relationship with Michael Alfonso continued to grow as her own marital relationship deteriorated.
She didn't talk about any relationship with him, but she always said, I'm alive right now, I gotta do what I can right now. And she also wanted a good future for her and for her daughter.
Gena's second job was at a local fast food restaurant. She had shared with a co-worker the difficulties she was having with her estranged husband.
Hello?
Gena was having marriage problems. I said, you just got to communicate with each other and everything will be okay. And then about a few days later, Gena starts getting these phone calls at work.
Gena, for you. Hello? Yeah, we're busy right now.
And this man starts calling like every other day there.
Yeah, okay.
Then I asked her, I says, who is this man calling you at work? And she would not answer me.
This guy doesn't hurt you, does he? No.
She would not tell me.
Sure. Yeah, we're just friends. Everything's fine.
She said, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I said, okay then, fine.
But Renee Anderson's concern for her young friend would prove prophetic. When Gena Velasquez made a decision to reconcile with her husband, she would see Michael Alfonso's darker side.
My husband and I are getting back together. Me
With
and my
who?
husband. We are
What does that mean? That means you're leaving me? No, you're not gonna leave me.
Michael Alfonso is an aggressive, violent man. When he doesn't get his way, he gets angry. Many of his friends tell us that they're scared of him, that they don't know which way he's gonna turn because he's so unpredictable.
Gena, I'm talking to you.
Do you want to hear?
Did you hear me? Gena, you want to listen to me?
Me.
Okay, that's nothing. You're not going anywhere. You don't break up with me, or I hurt you and your family.
Gena was so frightened by Alfonso's threats that she notified authorities.
Hi, this is Gena Velasquez. This guy was seen as threatening me.
She did not want to pursue any criminal charges at the time because she was deathly afraid of retaliation by Michael Alfonso.
No, you can't talk to him. Then I know he's gonna do something.
A pretty clear pattern of Michael Alfonso's behavior has emerged here. It seems as though when he begins to date a woman and the relationship goes sour, he gets angry at the woman and does not want them to leave. And what he does is he reacts with violence.
The day after Gena's altercation with Michael Alfonso, Alfonso reportedly confronted her at the restaurant where she worked.
I told you it's over between us.
No, and I told you.
According to what one customer told me, some man comes up to her and they start arguing. And it was a very heated argument from what the customer told me.
Gena's husband, who also worked at the same restaurant, was taking a rest break in his car on the other side of the building and had no idea his wife was in danger.
Don't run away from me. I told you, don't turn your back on me. You're not leaving me. You regret this?
One of the witnesses was in an automobile waiting in the drive-through line for food. Michael walked directly at her vehicle and walked between her car and the drive-through, and she looked at his face and noticed that he had a smirk on his face.
Another witness reported the hooded assailant ran toward a dark-colored car.
There was a person that noticed a black Firebird type of a vehicle drive away at a high rate of speed. We know from records that Michael Alfonso owns a 1994 black-colored Pontiac Firebird.
Oh, baby. Oh, God, look at her. I'm holding Heno, and I said to her, hold on, Heno, hold on. Everything's going to be okay.
Surrounded by her friends and co-workers, 28-year-old Gena Velasquez struggled for life. Gena would not win that fight. She was pronounced dead shortly after being taken to a hospital. When an all-points bulletin went out for the capture of Michael Alfonso, police learned they were in search of a career criminal. Before Alfonso served a 4-year prison term for the attack on Josefina Gonzalez, he had served time for a 1989 rape. Even then, investigators knew Alfonso was a threat to society, but were disappointed by the leniency of the court.
We asked for a lengthier prison sentence. The judge disagreed with us and didn't feel that Alfonso posed a threat to the community. Of course, history has proved differently. He is a tremendous threat to any woman who he becomes involved with.
Authorities were also suspicious of Alfonso's involvement in the unsolved 1992 disappearance of a young woman he was dating. Sumanir Yang reportedly informed Alfonso she intended to break up with him and return to her husband, and was never seen alive again.
Any woman that he gets involved in a relationship with is in grave danger unless they accede to all his demands and remain his loyal servant. They are in danger of being raped or killed.
2 months after her disappearance, the body of Sumanir Yang was discovered in a remote area. She had been shot in the head. But despite the suspicions of law enforcement, Michael Alfonso was currently wanted only for the murder of Gena Velasquez. And for the friends and family of Gena, the grieving has just begun.
You know, I can't accept that she's dead. I'm hoping one day she'll come up to me and tell me that this is a joke and it's a lie.
This guy doesn't deserve to be helped, or he doesn't deserve anything. I mean, he doesn't even deserve to live because he's taking, you know, other human beings' life. So if anyone is helping him, he doesn't deserve no help. He deserves to be behind bars.
Every mystery has a potential to be solved. It may take months, it may take years, or it may occur during our next edition of Unsolved Mysteries.